to you.
All right, and we are live, I believe. We got this up and running. Welcome to our NJ.com Google Hangout live video streaming discussion of the Republican presidential debate, which I think, guys, is just about over at this point. God, it went on forever. My name is Brian Donohue at NJ.com. With me are Tom Moran, editorial page of the Star Ledger, and Matt Katz from WNYC Radio, who also does the Christie Tracker blog. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining me.
Glad to be here, Brian.
Thanks, Brian. This is fun.
So, Matt, I'm going to go to you first. Do you have any sense from within the Christie camp about how they think he did last night?
They think he did exactly as they had hoped and maybe even exceeded expectations. They wanted to see the happy warrior last night, and that's exactly what they got. They didn't want him to engage Trump because they see no reason to engage Trump, and that they think he's going to win or lose and live or die on his own. The moderators tried to get him to grapple with him. They never did go after each other. Instead, Christie, you saw a little Christie fighting him going against Carly at one point, a little nudge to Carly that, hey, don't interrupt me. So you saw the fighter, but he didn't get into any scraps that will make him vulnerable, and that's really specifically a scrap with Trump. And plus, topics he didn't want to talk about, like Bridgegate or the chairman's flight, he didn't get into. He didn't really have to defend the New Jersey economy, even though Carly seemed to hint at that at one point, and he got to talk about, September 11th, terrorism, all the things that are sort of in his wheelhouse. So very pleased they were with his performance. He did a victory lap this morning, did 4 national TV interviews. Not that this is going to make any difference in his 1%, 2%, 3% standings in the polls, but they're as happy as they can be given the situation.
Yeah, the CNN had this set up so clearly last night to get these candidates to take each other on, and they did that clearly. They were trying to get Christie to go after Trump. They had the question about immigration, and Christie had said how expensive it would have been to actually execute Trump's plan to deport all the illegal immigrants in the country. And they split the screen. It was like, here we go, let's get ready to rumble, and then it didn't happen. I mean, it was that strategy by Christie was so clear there. Tom, what do you think of that? Why when some of the candidates were clearly going after Trump last night, is Christie choosing that happy warrior strategy and staying clear of Trump?
Well, I think, as Matt said, his camp is saying they think Trump is going to sink or swim on his own. So why be the one to stick your chin out against him? Because it's also dangerous, as Rick Perry, the ex-candidate, can tell you to go after Trump. He might hit you back. And I suppose that's why. I mean, I thought Christie had a good night, but let's say this doubles his support. That goes from 1% to 2%. So I don't think it changes the dynamic of the race one bit. But his performance was good. When they tried to set up him and his conflict with Ben Carson, remember that moment? They said, Ben Carson, you say politicians just hold their finger up in the air and do what the polls tell them. And Christie, is he talking about you? And the governor said, I don't think Ben's referring to me. And he got a good laugh out of that. And then he, turned it to his advantage. I thought he had a couple of good moments like that. But and I also think, even though it didn't probably score a lot of points, he's absolutely right about the deportation thing. When he said 15,000 people a day over a 2-year period would have to be deported in order to fulfill Trump's dream to, deport all 11 million undocumented. That's pretty staggering. You think about the effort that would take. It's hard to, you imagine going through cities like Newark. They'd have to send massive troops through the Ironbound to scoop up undocumented people and then hold them in a detention cell, have a legal hearing for them, 15,000 a day for 2 years. I thought it was a very good point of Christie's strong suit.
But didn't he back off on that? He sort of didn't seem to go after Trump too hard on that. He seemed to.
It's true. Yeah, he seemed to like a little jab and then back off. And I was curious about that. Maybe it fits into what you were saying, Matt, that they didn't want him to be the one to really confront Trump.
Well, they wanted to draw a contrast, and that he did. I mean, they're not. He's not looking to buddy up to him. But he didn't see a reason to kick the lion in the room. There was one point where Trump was talking about Atlantic City, and he said, it's not my fault, Atlantic City's a mess, and I wouldn't blame Chris either. And he's like, oh, maybe I'll blame Chris. And there were so many moments where Christie could have interjected and sort of tried to throw a punch at Trump, and he clearly did not want to do that. And it makes total sense to me at this point. I mean, nobody has successfully fought Trump and won yet, and maybe Carly Fiorina did that last night, but we'll wait and see.
You know, can I make one other point here, Brian?
Sure.
The bigger problem for Christie is not, he's good at this kind of thing. He's even better in town halls. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. The bigger problem for him is, there's no real theme to his campaign. What is it that Christie wants to do with America? It's hard to answer that question. He started out saying, I'm the guy who will cut bipartisan deals. I'm the adult in the room, and that's leadership. He dropped that. He went on to air TV commercials about how tough he's going to be in foreign policy, where he has no qualifications whatsoever. And now he's onto this law and order thing, where he's the guy who can really straighten out the world and the country, and he'll stop pot smokers in Colorado, and he'll stop Putin in Syria. And I don't think that has a lot of credibility to it either. But the big thing that strikes me is there is no theme to the Christie campaign, except I'm a likable guy. And I noticed in Duhaime's comments after the debate, he said, we're happy because as people get to know Christie better, they'll like him more. And I just don't see that happening. I certainly don't see that in New Jersey. We know him pretty well, and his numbers are overwhelmingly negative here. So
yeah, Tom,
I don't think there's any magic there, you know.
That raises another thing that I wanted to talk about, which is immediately after the debate, one of the CNN commentators said, holy moly, the analyst afterwards said, Christie came off as such a conservative. Who knew he was such a conservative? And that struck me. I mean, we've seen that because we follow this every day. We've seen this march just sort of inching to the right as he's campaigned. But I think it was really much more apparent, like he said last night, the anti-marijuana stance and the abortion comments. He had really strong comments about abortion. And so that was not where we expected to see him at this point in this campaign, right? He was going to run as the moderate compromise guy to be on a wholly different track. Has he
yeah, then again, I think he's all over the map. Again, something I give him a lot of credit for is his plan on Social Security to, phase out the benefits for people earning over $200,000 and cut them out at that point. And that took some real guts to take on, and that seems to have disappeared now too. He mentioned it briefly, but who is he? Is he this guy now? He's running around as it's about abortion and guns now to him. I mean, I don't get it.
The red meat he threw on abortion, that Hillary Clinton supports the systematic murder of babies in the womb, was a dramatic comment, and out of character from anything I've ever heard him talk about in terms of abortion. And that was a clear attack to the right. And you wonder if it wasn't for Bridgegate, you wonder if he hadn't been so politically damaged by the scandals in 2014, if he would have been able to come out in 2015. He would have had to, move a little right in a Republican primary. But would we have seen so many changes in positions and such harsh rhetoric on some conservative issues if he hadn't been so politically damaged by the scandals that he had to, reinforce his base and get as much support from the base as possible? He could have run as a big tent Republican, as a guy who's going to be more moderate on certain things like immigration, like Common Core, and take it or leave it. I tell you like it is. I'm going to tell you the truth. You'll know where I stand. You're not going to agree with everything, et cetera, et cetera. Instead, because he's injured by the scandals, he's run as a more traditional Republican, a more traditional conservative than the one that we've seen in New Jersey in the first term, and then the one that we expected him to run in 16.
And
it doesn't quite work, does it? Because then he still does have positions that alienate the conservative base of the party. Like the truth is he did sign a few gun control measures. He was for Common Core before he was against it. And immigration reform, he used to say, we want a path to citizenship. So it all starts to look like a phony jumble to me. And it's an interesting question, Matt. If he weren't damaged by Bridgegate, could he have held his ground in the middle and been a little more sincere as a candidate?
Right. You know, you talked about the theme. There was the Law and Order theme is the one that he's been using the last couple of months. But I sensed a new possible theme emerging last night, and that's this like populist middle class thing. It's a way of maybe pushing back against the Bush dynasty and the Trump's billions. He asked that the camera be turned to the audience in the beginning. When the Carly Fiorina Donald Trump spat, he said, "It's not about you guys. You're successful, but it's about the middle class." He returned to that theme a little bit in his closing statement, which did apparently very well on Google. I wonder if there's a populist avenue he's going to try to take, and that, you know, he can sell very well. I wonder, you know, up against the picture of him jumping up and down with Jerry Jones in a $10,000 luxury suite in Dallas. You know, how that contrasts. But I mean, you know, we may hear more of that.
Well, there's no shortage of millionaires and billionaires trying to grasp the populist sentiment, right? I mean, that's what Trump is all about, right? So.
Yeah, but it's different, I think. A little. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
Again, I mean, if he goes to that populist angle, then he runs headlong into the Trump supporters again.
Well, he also runs straight into his record. This is a guy who vetoed the minimum wage, who has done terrible on job creation. New Jersey's one of the worst 3 or 4 in the country during his time as governorship. So, you know, he can talk about the unemployed construction worker, as they did during that exchange with Trump and Fiorina. But his record, you know, doesn't back up anything populist. This is not a guy who has been kind to New Jersey's poor.
All right, where do we go from here, Matt? What's on the governor's plate and the campaign's plate after this?
New Hampshire, New Hampshire, New Hampshire. I mean, he's headed out to South Carolina, and he's got a fundraiser today. But other than that, I mean, this is all about New Hampshire still. That's the race he has to at least, you know, place in the top 3 at least. And he does town hall meetings there every week, and he tries to meet more actual New Hampshire primary voters than any other single candidate. He's already been there more days than any other candidate, and that's going to be the plan going forward.
I got to ask you, Matt, this core mystery of this campaign to me that I haven't been able to figure out. You see him at town halls in New Hampshire. People seem to love him in the audience. He's going around spending more time there than anybody. His polls don't budge. He's down in the basement. What explains that?
You know, you talk to people, they're won over. They're like, I'm voting for him when they leave. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense. He must be.
Well, do you think?
You know, they say, you know, they point to his people point to the favorables, his favorable ratings, and say they've gone up, and in New Hampshire, and that is a precursor to good poll numbers. So maybe the field is so crowded that, you know, things haven't shook out yet, and they say 90% of the people won't decide until the final month before the election. So they're hoping these favorable ratings are a precursor to real support once the field starts to maybe narrow a little bit.
Yeah, I've heard them say that, but why are people saying I prefer the other candidates, though? You know, I've heard that argument. The favorabilities are up. People don't decide to the end, so he's in a good, okay spot.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, we're going to wrap this up here.
Now, they're saying we want Trump, we want Bush, we want...
Tom, sorry to cut you off. We're running out of time here, man.
Yeah. So, I got spotty reception down there, too.
All right,
good. Is there another time we can talk?
There is another time, in fact. So check this out. The 3 of us will all be live on stage next week at the Blaustein School of Planning and Public Policy on the Rutgers campus, and you can tune in for a live video stream of that event at 7 p.m. Thursday, September 24th. The 3 of us will be on stage, not just talking about the campaign. We'll be talking about all things Christie, the state of affairs in New Jersey, the top issues facing New Jersey, all things Christie, the campaign for president, and who's going to be the next governor. We'll start talking about that. And that's live on stage at the Blaustein School. That's a sold-out event, but you can catch the live stream here 7 p.m. Thursday. You know, also, to see that, go to nj.com/askmoran to get more details on that, and you can watch it there. You guys, thanks a lot. This has been awesome, and we'll do it again soon.
Okay, Brian.
Next week, Brian. Thanks.
Later, Matt.
Later.